Welcome to Bigger Than the Game with Deremy and Jose. I'm Deremy Dove, and I'm joined by my tag team partner, Jose, the real deal Ruiz. What's going on, man?
What's going on, Deremy, man? How you doing? It's good to be here, straight up, man. It's good to be here
absolutely.
with you.
Absolutely, man. And, last year we did the 30th anniversary of Bowe versus Holyfield 1. That was the 92 fight of the year. So this year, we're going to do it because this was also another classic, Bowe versus Holyfield 2, the rematch, 30th anniversary, November 6th, 93. So, Jose, I don't know, are you more excited to look at the action in the ring or the action during round 7 when the fan man came on through and wound up having to fight pretty much all of Riddick Bowe's entourage? Which action are you most excited to see?
Both, to be honest. I know that's like a lame answer, but like this fight had so much, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know we talked about it, Deremy, and it's just the craziness that happened outside the ring with the fan man and, like you said, like the entourage. And, you know, we talked about it on our last episode. Like, this isn't the first time, you know, Riddick Bowe entourage, like, put some work in. They really put some work in here with the fan man. Rightfully so, though. You know, that was like, it's a crazy moment, man. You know what I mean? Like, and looking back and, you know, how things are today, like, there's no way that would happen today. You know what I mean? So it's fun to look at, man, but it was an insane night. And it's a fight that I would never forget.
No, absolutely. And this pre 9/11 era, there's no way that he's making it, you know, to you know, pretty much parachute on into the ring. But I think, Jose, for me, there's a couple questions that are important that while we're doing this rewatch of Bowe versus Holyfield 2, you know, I think the main one is who was winning the fight pre the fan man. That was, I think, you know, round 7. And then we can talk about it as the fight goes on. But do you think if there is no fan man, would the decision be different or would it have still been the same? So I think those are some things to look for because it's a close fight and it's one that's controversial. And a lot of people, when you throw in what happened with fan man, say, you know, if this would have happened, if that would have happened, it would have been a different outcome.
Right. And I agree. And again, I know how I feel about that. And again, we'll 100% talk about it when all this starts to happen. We'll look at every round here. As you know, folks on YouTube watching us, we're watching the fight together. Folks listening, you know, on the podcast, we got, you know, Holyfield just walked into the ring. Riddick Bowe's coming into the ring, you know, fighting in Caesar Palace, November 6th of 93?
Yeah, that's why that's the 30th, man.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I remember he had the feline stuff on. But no, we'll definitely break that down. I'm super curious on like what everyone else like is thinking, but I know what I thought, and I know the fan man, in my opinion, shifted the entire fight. Like, because and again, we'll look at it, but I know who was winning. I felt like I know who was winning that fight and who was in control of that fight. And it was a long stoppage. You know what I mean? Like that was a big thing, man. I'm surprised they even continued that fight. So.
I believe it was 21 minutes.
Yeah.
Of stoppage. A big thing was also Riddick Bowe's wife. I forget how many months pregnant she is, but she's ringside and she's pregnant. And when that, you know, fan man comes through, she gets taken to the hospital. So Rock Newman, Riddick Bowe's manager at the time, the infamous Rock Newman, he winds up talking to Riddick Bowe. So that's running through his mind as well, you know, and that's going on. So there was just so much chaos, so much controversy. You know, Reverend Jesse Jackson and Farrakhan were ringside. So then that's when people were wondering, was Fan Man doing something against, you know, Louis Farrakhan, Nation of Islam, or Reverend Jesse Jackson? So some of those shots that the Fan Man take, it's Bowe's entourage, but also some of the security of the Nation of Islam. And either way, those are, you know, Bowe's camp or the bodyguards of the Nation of Islam. I do not want to see them at any time, at any point. So he was due for an ass whooping of major proportions.
Yeah, he got it. And it took away, man, from what is in his outstanding fight, right? Like we wouldn't be doing a rewatch on a sports history podcast if it wasn't, right? And if you're looking at the tail of the tape now. They got Bowe was at 26 years old. Holyfield was 31. Obviously, we all know Riddick Bowe was a lot bigger than Holyfield. Was 6'5". Holyfield was 6'2". It was just, man, these two guys. I don't know if they hated each other, but they fought like they hated each other. You know what I mean? Like, and it just made for some amazing fights. So, yeah, I'm excited to rewatch this, Deremy.
And a big change is the previous November, Holyfield loses the title, his first loss to Riddick Bowe. Bowe becomes champ. A lot happened in that year. Holyfield, he had Lou Duva as the main guy for that first fight. Now we got from Kronk Jim, from Detroit, Emmanuel Stewart. And I feel like, man, when it's like hey, you're having trouble, you got to get a Kronk guy. That's what all these big fighters do. And the late great Emmanuel Stewart, he comes in and you see Holyfield's a different fighter than he was that year before.
Oh, he's an all-time great trainer, man. You know what I mean? Like, and you're exactly right. Like, so how many big fighters, went to Emmanuel Stewart to like resurrect their careers? Big time, like big fighters. And at the time in the heavyweight division, it doesn't get any bigger than Evander Holyfield. So, yeah, he needed to make a change. He made the change. Now, is this change going to affect the fight? We're definitely going to find out here.
Even current heavyweight champ Tyson Fury, to get ready for Wilder, he gets a trainer who has that background in the Kronk gym. So even as we say, have to pass it to present day, people are still going to Kronk gym trainers. And hey, when they need to improve, especially improve that speed, that quickness, that reaction time, you want to get a Kronk gym trainer. So that's what's going on with Evander. Now, Riddick Bowe's had a crazy year.
Yeah.
A year of ducking Lennox Lewis. Let's call it what it is.
Yeah.
He didn't. That was a potential fight that could have happened. But then there's the theatrics where he puts the heavyweight title in the trash can. He goes on this international world tour as the champion. And he's not really taking the best care of himself physically. Which was always his trainer's a legend, Eddie Futch. That was always his big concern with Riddick Bowe.
Yeah, and ultimately was the downfall, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and we talked about it in our last fight. We talked about it, if you check the archives, we did a show. Check them, right? We did a show on the 90s heavyweights, and that was a big topic of ours, right? Like, we talked about all those top heavyweights, Holyfield, definitely, and Riddick Bowe was in there as well. And then we talked about, like what would happen if Riddick Bowe was, one of those guys like an Evander Holyfield who worked hard. And I'm not saying Riddick Bowe didn't work hard. He's not in this position if he didn't work hard, right? But, to go that extra mile to make sure you're staying in shape, eating right, doing all these things, that is like the man. That separates the great ones, right? And again, it's like those what ifs. And Riddick Bowe was definitely in the heavyweight division, a big time what if.
Yeah, and we got round one starting, and Riddick Bowe's coming out swinging here.
Yeah.
I think, and he knows, I believe, he's not in the best shape, and he knows the longer the fight goes, it's going to go to Evander, so he's trying to end it as quick as possible, and he's throwing some haymakers early.
Yeah, he threw some bombs there, man. Yeah,
and just
it was a quick early storm.
Yeah. The size difference, Holyfield 6'2", but Riddick that's 6'5", that's 3 inches, and we're looking at from 215 for Evander to about 245, 250 for Riddick Bowe.
Yeah, Holyfield was definitely one of those smaller heavyweights, man. But he held his own, He held his own.
Always. So just the heart that you got to give Evander, and I think that's something you got to look at. Riddick Bowe in the previous year, that first fight, he had the fight of his life.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, Jose, you got to ask yourself, how many times can you have the fight of your life more than one time? So I think that's what's interesting about this was like, I think it was in the back of Evander Holyfield's mind.
Yeah, you can't be perfect all the time, and I think Riddick Bowe had an amazing fight. Fight one, he was in top shape, and for him, and he looked amazing. He looked great, and it showed in the ring. And you're right. I think Holyfield knew coming in that was not going to be the case in this fight, and still, like Riddick Bowe fought a great fight here, but there was no way he was going to be able to duplicate what he did in the first fight.
But already, though, looking at round one, you see the difference from Bowe the previous year to this one, fights 1 and 2. That first fight, all throughout it, he's just popping that jab, looking fresh and spry. And here you see he came out not using, he's trying to get into it now, but the jab, he was just going in there for haymakers here. A
Yeah.
different approach and not looking as sharp, as he did in that first fight already we could see in round one.
Right, and just right on cue there. I mean, that was perfect. Like, he threw a lazy jab, and Holyfield countered with a beautiful left hook. That I'm not saying it rocked him, but it just stopped all the punches. You know what I mean? Like, it definitely got his attention. So I think Holyfield's already looking at that. Like, all right, like this guy's a little slower. Let me make sure I'm on top of like these counter punches and things. And one thing I'll give Holyfield, we talked about 214, 215. He fought inside. You know what I mean? Like, and he was a really good counter puncher. And if you made a mistake, you were going to pay. You can ask a lot of heavyweights, man. Buster Douglas is one. Comes to mind quickly. He threw that lazy uppercut and Holyfield counter with that beautiful hook and knocked him out. But that he threw that same hook here and he caught boom.
Who do you have round one for?
That was a tough round to judge, man, because Holyfield didn't really do much. He was there, and I would give the first round to Riddick Bowe because he came out aggressive. He threw a lot of power punches. Holyfield was there, just kind of weathering the storm. And if you look at punches in the round, throwing both threw 60 punches. Holyfield only threw 31 and landed 8. So punch stats, definitely going to give the fight the round to Bowe. He got him with that uppercut too, man.
He nicked him a little bit, yeah.
Yeah,
but I don't think he really rocked Evander that first round either, though.
No, he caught him with that uppercut, but Holyfield was bouncing around. He was fine.
I agree with you. I'll give round one to Bowe. We're looking at round two now, but I think it's just going to be interesting to see because I just wondering what happens, with that fan man and just oof. I mean, because we have it's a split decision fight, so just seeing what
close decision, man. Yeah, I mean, Holyfield looks good. You know what I mean? Like, he's bouncing around, he's moving around, working the jab, trying to avoid that jab. That Bowe jab has to be powerful, man. You know what I mean? Like, Holyfield was a little off balance there.
There's just something about it, though. We saw how Holyfield later on, and he's older at that point.
Yeah.
But how he does against Lennox Lewis, a tall 6'5" fighter, and I'm just wondering because Tyson is a shorter fighter than Holyfield, right?
Yep.
But the way Tyson in his prime, in his style, that peekaboo style, how do you think he would have matched up against a Lennox Lewis or Riddick Bowe in '93? Do you think his style would have been better against him than a Holyfield?
That's a tough one, man. I mean, yeah, you're right. Like, Tyson had a lot more movement. You know what I mean? Like, it would have been a little easier for him to kind of get in there and fight in the inside. For Holyfield, he has to take a punch. You know what I mean? Almost to get in there. And so I think Tyson would have had a little success against these bigger guys. But it still would have been tough. You know what I mean? Because I think even with Tyson in the early 90s, I think, or the late 80s, he was fighting those bigger guys, the Razor Ruddicks and things like that. And, obviously Buster Douglas. I think the game plan was already starting to be mapped out on how to beat Mike. So it would have been interesting for sure. But I think Mike's head movement, if he would have stayed with that, because, that started to fade away too a little bit. Yeah, I think he would have been a little easier for Mike to get inside compared to Holyfield. Because you can look at Holyfield fighting this fight. Sorry, Deremy. He's jabbing and that reach, man, advantage for Bowe. It's like it's going to be tough for him to land that jab if Bowe is smacking him with the jab as well.
It's just something, man. I styles make fights, but I always think about it when in any division, right? Even like the smaller division, when you have that person who is just tall and has that reach, it's just really tough to deal with. You kind of have to just say, hey, all right, screw it. I'm going to take some hits. I got to get inside you, though. I can't let you keep me at bay with that jab. You check the archives when we did our Hearns versus Leonard, Ray episode, and Ray Leonard really struggled that first fight. Most of the fight, Tommy Hearns just keeping him at bay with that jab, and Ray had to kind of say screw it and go against his style and just go inside and become that puncher, that rumbler, because he was doing nothing with that long jab. And I feel Holyfield had battled that in the first fight, and Bowe's not using the jab as effectively as the first fight. He's having to battle that now.
He's doing a good enough job. You know what I mean? Like if you look at punch numbers and things like that, Holyfield has landed 19 punches in 2 rounds. Bowe was averaging 30 plus. And again, I think to your point, Deremy, is he's keeping him away enough with that jab. Yeah. And we were talking about earlier, it's not as sharp and it's not as crisp as the first fight. It's still a great jab. You know what I mean? Like it still is giving Holyfield a ton of problems. And you can look here, he's been off balance a couple of punches where he's needing to reach because again, he's all the way in the outside. So I agree with you there. I mean, that's a great point, but it's definitely affecting him.
Yeah, it's tough. Man, I just tell you though, I not to be old fogies or nothing like that or old heads, but just like miss it, man. When you just have and we kind of had one with Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou. Yeah, that shocked people as being a hell of a fight, but missing, that was something. But missing this big fight feel, man, like
it's needed. It's 100% needed, man, and especially in this big boy division, this heavyweight division. I didn't see that Fury fight, and I heard decision was suspect.
Yeah, and Ngannou took it to him.
Yeah.
I was proud of Francis as a boxing fan, though. I love Francis Ngannou, though. Like even though he's MMA, but he was a knockout guy, and then he's a unicorn. Francis Ngannou is a unicorn.
Yeah, he's got natural power, man. Another good counter by Holyfield. But I don't know. I gave the second round to Bowe as well.
I have 2 rounds for Bowe.
Yeah. So again, for those listening and those, watching on YouTube with us and those listening on the podcast, we want to make sure we're scoring these rounds so that way we can prove, or not even prove, but just kind of have that conversation about, what happens after the 7th round and things like that. So as we all can see, and for the, people listening on the podcast, Riddick Bowe is pretty much in control. I think Holyfield is doing a little more here in this round. Throwing more punches, and he's connected with Bowe a little bit more. But
yeah, because a lot of people had back 30 years ago was that Bowe won the first 3. I definitely know he won the first 2. We're in the 3rd round, and I agree with you. It's a little bit tighter.
Yeah,
like we got 30 seconds left. I might give it to Bowe, right, but we'll see. But definitely the first 2 go to Riddick.
Yeah, and I just think Holyfield has a lot more urgency in this round, like to get in there. You know what I mean? Like he's throwing a little more counter punches, and he's taking some shots, but he's getting in there and throwing his own. And that's what I think he definitely needed. Mills Lane breaking him up.
Oh yeah, the Judge Mills Lane.
Yeah,
get it on. I give round 3 to Riddick Bowe as well. In a much closer one, but
it's a closer one, yeah. But again, he's in control, and that's what the judges look at a lot of times.
Wait, let me ask you. This might sound stupid or random, but when it comes to judging fights, you could judge an MMA fight, whatever, but we'll keep it just to boxing.
Yeah.
Do you think it needs to be? Because I feel like it's so all over the place. Like me, you, and somebody, Joe Smith, can judge a fight, and we just have 3 different opinions on what we're looking for in a fight, and then we get these. Do you feel like judging a fight should be more uniformed than what it is?
It should, because again, and it's easy for me. Like for me, I like when a fighter is like in control, right? Like it doesn't have to be. I mean, power punches obviously are something that is important. Just shots landed in general. But if a fighter, like he's pursuing and he's making the fight. Like in my opinion, I think I give those guys a little bit busier guys. Like I give them the round. And some people are not like that. Some people base it off of just like who connected more on power shots or whatever the case may be, and it should be more uniform. You know what I mean? Like just look at this and that and base it off of these things. But that's why I think we get so many different decisions, man.
Yeah. Holyfield looking pretty good here in this fourth round coming out.
Yeah.
And we know Bowe's stamina, and that's what the great Eddie Futch, his trainer, worried about. Is Bowe going to keep that endurance, that stamina? And Eddie Futch was big on that. His guys doing the road work, getting in shape, and Riddick did that for the first fight, but he definitely lost that for this second one. And
yeah,
you're starting to see, in my opinion, you're starting to see that. He's tired out in this fourth round.
Yeah, there's no jabs being thrown. He's letting Holyfield live in the inside, and that's what Holyfield wants, and Holyfield's hitting him with some shots, But this fight is starting to get a lot more action-packed, for sure. And I think to your point again, Deremy, a great point is the shift in Bowe in round 4 compared to the first 3 rounds. And, again, he's barely throwing any jabs now.
And look where Evander is, though. That's where he wants to be. He's right inside.
Yeah, and Jim Lampley just said it. Yeah.
Go ahead, my fault.
No, you're good. Like I was just saying, Jim Lampley just said the same thing, shoulder to shoulder, these guys, and that's where you don't want to be with Holyfield.
Mm-hmm. Remember, you said it. You made a point earlier. Holyfield was kind of off balance throwing punch because he was so far back to reach him, and now look, fourth round, he's right on the inside there.
Yeah.
Hey, I've heard Vince Lombardi say it. I've heard Jimmy Johnson say it. But fatigue will make a coward out of you, and I think that's what it does, man. It just Riddick just looks tired.
Yeah, and it's again round 4, and Holyfield's in this for the long haul,
12,
so
baby.
Yeah, so yeah, there you go. We should be working for HBO, man.
I know, right, man?
Yeah, and Bowe's getting hit. He's seeing some stuff starting to happen. His eye swelling up. Now Holyfield did headbutt him in the previous round, but Holyfield's hitting him now, man.
Evander loves those. There we go.
After
the bell, I love it, baby. They're rolling.
Yeah, they were going. Oh man, he got hit with some shots.
This fight was great. This fight was great for that. You'll see that a few more times. This fight, where after the bell's ringing, ding, 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 ding. But you know what? I used to hear people say this, and then from like back when I was younger, sparring a little bit and doing a little bit, it's hard to hear that bell when you're in the middle of it. Like I used to be like, how do people not hear it? But like when you're in the middle of it, you're just focused in. Like it's ding ding. Someone has to sometimes break it up. Like not to be like a cheap shot artist. You're zoned in, but it's something else. Emmanuel Stewart, I remember watching ESPN Classic, like the ringside, and they looked at this fight, and he says something that has stuck in my mind the whole time since from all these years. He's like, when this kind of happens and you're trying to break it up, he's like, you always got to go for your guy. He goes, even if you're trying to break it up, if you go for the other guy, that could lead to more stuff.
Yeah.
So you see, he went and grabbed Evander, because he was like, always go for you. And I was like, I never thought about that, but like now it stays in my mind. You're trying to break it up, go get your guy. Don't try to, even if you mean well, don't go after the other guy, because then his people might think you're trying to do something. So
yeah, and look at it. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Deremy. Finish your point.
No, I was you'll see that more in the fight, but you're right though. It's in round 4, Evander definitely took it to him. He won that round.
Yeah, I mean first 2 rounds he threw what was it, 18, 19 punches. In round 4, he threw 43. You know what I mean? Like, so he was right where he wanted to be at. He was in his element, and he was comfortable. He was throwing more power punches because, again, he didn't have to go too far to hit Bowe. And now, Riddick Bowe has a cut in his in his left eye, and earlier he was head bunted, but he got head bunted and it was his right eye. So, we can't blame it on that either.
What was up with Evander? Evander headbutt everybody.
Yeah, he was inside, man. Like,
yeah,
and that's
everybody.
He didn't give a shit.
No, it led to his ear getting bit off.
Yeah. His ears look fine here.
Mm-hmm. That'll be what, 5 years later?
Yeah,
4.5, 5 years later. That year, Tyson got mad at them headbutts. That was Mills Lane too, I think, right?
That was Mills Lane. Yep. So now Holyfield's right eye looks like he's got a cut, and we got Bowe now.
Oh, getting a little energy back.
Throwing jabs, but they're lazy jabs, and Holyfield is countering with those hooks. Cannot throw them lazy jabs, man. Oof, another counter right hand by Holyfield.
No.
I miss Lampley and Foreman. Man.
Man, I tell you what, for those who haven't, and please, if you're listening or watching, do it after you get done. But just go on like YouTube and do HBO boxing, like their farewell, like that last fight. I think it was like 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, man, people may think it's crazy. I get emotional every time watching that because it's just, it was a big. I know probably you too, Jose. It was a big part of like my life, my childhood was HBO boxing and these big fights, and then to see the history and like, man, Jim Lampley was one of those voices, Even Roy Jones Jr. seen as a fighter and as a broadcaster.
Yeah.
All the HBO boxing people who have passed away, it gets you emotional. Like all those years of just great boxing, and it's gone.
Yeah, I mean, I remember watching Lampley get emotional a bunch of times, and it's just these dudes loved it and cared about it. Yeah, that was another really good round. That was a tough round to score. I don't know. I don't want to speak for you, Deremy. I gave the fourth to Holyfield, obviously.
Yeah.
This one was tough, man. Who did you go with for the fifth?
I'm going to go with Holyfield for the fifth.
Yeah, I agree. And then I think we'll see punch stats. We'll back that up.
Well, it goes to what you said about when we talk about judging rounds, which I agree with that point. It goes with who's in control. Now, I think Riddick maybe has thrown a couple harder punches, but lazy jabs, and also who was in control of the round, dictating the action. Fourth round, it was Evander. Fifth round, Evander as well.
And he hurt him. I think he hurt Bowe there, and he didn't look as dramatic. And Holyfield's catching up when it comes to punches through 5 rounds. It was a big discrepancy at first 3 rounds. Now Holyfield's down like 30 punches or something like that. This fight's good, though, man. It's a great fight already.
Yeah, we're in the 6th round, so we've got a little bit to go. One more round away from, one of the most bizarre moments in sports history here.
Yeah, it's sports history. You're exactly right, man. And, I was thinking the other day there, say this was to happen today, right? And, so what do you do? Like, did you just shoot something down like that? Cause then that might be even worse. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but I think
it's nuts, man.
And we'll see, because I don't know if you watched that when all the replays of him coming in,
yeah, floating down.
It's dark, he's not easy to detect. So God forbid, I'm not saying you want that, but I couldn't. In today's world, you don't know what that is. He was in the dark for a while. You don't know what you're seeing, so it's they maybe, which what you said would have been awful on live TV. Even though it was HBO or pay-per-view, it's still live television to watch that. But you're just, how can you tell?
I don't think this fight was pay-per-view.
No, I mean, I just mean
No, I know. But I'm just saying, now that you say that, I was like, what? This wasn't even pay-per-view, man. I think this was just on HBO. That goes to show you, man. And that's why a lot of people were so in love with boxing. You didn't have to pay $100 to watch this fight. I'm not saying there wasn't any pay-per-views, but
Yeah, there
This
were.
this major fight here, man. I think it was on HBO.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm not sure. That's interesting. Uh, it's great. That's one thing too. You knew the refs. Like Mills Lane before he was Judge Mills Lane. You knew him.
Yeah.
Because I remember Ray Mancini saying that like the boxers loved him because he get in the action, and then even though he's doing his job, he go, "You got a free hand, let it go, let it go, let it go."
Yeah.
Like he's encouraging. He's wanting to see the action too. So
yeah, that's a good point by Foreman, man. That first fight he did a lot of damage with the uppercut. First round he did some damage with the uppercut. Riddick Bowe did, and he's not throwing that punch. But
who are you looking? I was
right,
gonna say who you liking in round 6 here?
I like Bowe. I think Bowe was kind of like back to what he was doing in the first couple rounds.
I think so too. I think right now 4 after 6, 4 rounds Bowe, 2 rounds to Holyfield.
Yeah.
Look at that though. 28 out of 37 for Holyfield, 18 out of 36 for Riddick Bowe. But I do think Bowe was controlling the round more.
Yeah, and I think there you go. He gave him the 4th. I don't know about that.
Well, it evens out though, I guess.
Right,
though.
right.
So it's still the same. Harold Letterman.
Yeah, I don't agree with the 4th, but whatever.
But I agree. I'm with you. I don't agree with that, but it still evens out 4 rounds Bowe to 2 for Holyfield after 6, and the infamous 7th round.
Yeah, and the crazy part is in this round, before you even see the fan man coming in, you hear the crowd. And you hear the crowd and folks looking up, and you're like, what is going on? And then next thing you know, you hear Jim Lampley and George Foreman letting us know. Yeah, now the jab. Now both snapping that jab.
Yeah, it's coming back. I was about to say that. Yep, the jab's coming back.
Beautiful right hand, Holyfield.
But both throwing some combinations right now.
Both looked like he had a nice. Might have taken that last round off a little bit. Yeah. Great point by Foreman there. He Holyfield landed that flush overhand right and just stopped. It just stood there. And that's what gave Bowe the ability to kind of like counter and tee off on him a little bit. So it took away from that great right hand that,
here we go.
Yeah, you can hear the crowd.
And the fan man's got caught in there.
This is insane, dude.
And the propeller, he has a propeller, so that's dangerous too.
Right.
And look at this.
This dude, man.
Unbelievable. And Holyfield in the ring saw it first.
Yeah.
And he looks up, and Bowe kind of later on, he said he didn't know Evander was tricking him or not. And then Mills Lane, and then, And so for a little background on the fan man, his name, James Miller. He has since passed away. He died in September of 2002.
Just gonna have Rock Newman with his Howard University sweatshirt on.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah. But he, a paraglider, and wind up, coming on in for this fight. He had a good joke though. Later on, he said, it was a heavyweight fight, and I was the only guy who got knocked out. So. This would not be the first time. He did it a few times afterwards. He would get arrested for it. He winds up passing away, committing suicide, after he found out he had coronary, artery disease. His brother said that this was just him. He kind of liked to, rock the establishment. He was saying for a little bit afterwards that it was a statement against violence, but his brother later on, after he passed, said that wasn't it. It was just he wanted to rock the status quo.
He definitely did that. So now for our listeners on the podcast, what they're doing in the ring right now is just wrapping Riddick Bowe up in like a blanket almost to try to keep him warm. Because who knows how long?
Holyfield too.
Right. And who knows how long this is going to be? And I know you mentioned earlier, Deremy, this was like 21 minutes, but a delay. We don't know how long this is going to take. Watching this, we don't know how long they're going to get him out of there. How long is, you know what I mean? Like, it's just so much that's going on, and you got to keep these guys warm in order for this fight to continue.
And remember, even though it's Las Vegas, it's Nevada. I mean, it's November.
Yeah.
And, it's probably, at this point, it's midnight probably on the East Coast, but like 9 o'clock on Nevada time. So it's at night. The temperature drops. So,
it gets chilly. I've been in Vegas in November. It's chilly.
Yeah, and it's an outdoor arena. They're not inside. Like, it's an outdoor arena. So, not only just to keep the fighters warm just for, fighting stake, it actually is cold out. And now look at this, for those watching on YouTube, how dark it is.
Yeah.
And him coming in, like, like I said, it's a pre-9/11 world, so, like, he could get away with that.
That's a great shot right there. Yeah.
Insane. Like, this is up there, man, though. I mean, I think of, like, Monica Seles with that fan come on the court and stabbing her, which was the same year. In 93, just one of the more bizarre moments in sports history. And, this but one thing I'll give boxing is, in the 2000s, you had whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Boxing was that to me for years. Like, in Vegas, anything can happen in a big fight. And this was, like, really proving it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always looked at that, like, meaning in the ring and, like, with judges and stuff like that. Certain fighters, you fight them in Vegas, I felt like they had the upper hand and things like that. But yeah, this is a different level, and I don't remember, again, the Monica Seles one it's a good example. I'm Malice in the Palace is like nothing.
Yeah, great.
Like something like that is another one that I would never forget. I know exactly where I was at when I was watching this fight, just because, again, it was a great fight, but it was because of the fight. It was because of the 7th round and everything that happened in that 7th round.
Jesse Jack, and I think that's Riddick Bowe's pregnant wife.
Yep. So now that the round's not even over, they still have to fight in the 7th round. So
Jose, should this fight have been canceled?
Yes, at 100%. I think so. Again, because of all of that just happened, a delay of 21 minutes. You know what I mean? Like, that's a eternity when it comes to an event like this, and guys needed to be warm. And I mean, we hear it all the time in boxing when guys don't warm up pre-fight and come out cold. It takes them a round or two to kind of get in the flow and work up a sweat. Like, that's the first thing I look at in the beginning of a fight. If a guy's coming out sweaty or if he's cold, imagine, like, getting warmed up, fighting for 6 rounds, 7th rounds, and then having to stop. And look at these guys. None of them are sweating. You know what I mean? Like,
it's very bizarre.
Yeah, it's going to take a little bit for you to kind of, like, warm back up into the fight. Again, these guys are fighting outside, and we just talked about, like, the temperature in late November. In Nevada in November at night. Like, it's a lot of elements that they cannot control. And I think 100% this fight should have been stopped.
I agree with you, but for a different reason. I think it should have been stopped, but because of what we just had seen with Riddick Bowe's pregnant wife and that being on the mind, if Riddick Bowe's wife isn't around all that, I think continue to fight. I really do. But with that going on, and now they asked him, and, you could say, depending on how you stand, credit Riddick said continue, Rock Newman or if Rock convinced him or whatever. I think with that factor going in, because she had to get taken to the hospital, it's like,
right, I'm out.
Yeah, it's exactly, it's too much going on.
Yeah,
I think, like, but if she's not at the arena, say she's not there, like, I say then the fight should go on.
Yeah, no, I'm with you, man. And yeah, I don't know how you fight and have that on the back of your mind and that not affect you. I don't know if he got any updates or whatever, in the fight, but this it's a different time. There's no texting and you know what I mean? Like there's no social media, email in Riddick Bowe's corner, and there's no cell phone in the corner.
Yeah.
Like, you have to wait for an update, and I don't know if he was getting any.
And I don't know even that I don't know how to judge round 7.
Right. I'm not.
It's 2 different rounds. Yeah, it's 2 different rounds. Pre-Fan Man, I was giving it to Bowe.
Yep.
Post-Fan Man, I gave it to Evander. So I don't, I don't know what the hell to do with that.
Now, even before moving on with this fight, Deremy, just a 21-minute delay, break, whatever you want to call it, just without knowing what happened, who do you think would benefit from a 21-minute break out of these 2 fighters, would you say?
Who would benefit? I think the benefit should go to Riddick Bowe.
Right. That was my thought as well. Like, I think for him, he should like kind of re-energize a little bit, especially again, he was the one that was not in the best of shape.
No, he was out of shape. He was out of shape.
It should benefit him. I agree.
So that's kind of, and we'll see. That's why we're breaking it down. But from what everyone was saying and watching in '93, that to me makes it even more surprising what happened, because to the 21, and now his camp has said it hurts him. Rock Newman, he was winning, but I'm like, yeah, but he wasn't going to knock Evander out.
Right.
And we know he was going in spurts here. He was going to tire out.
Right. And Holyfield looked sharp. Like, and that 21-minute delay for a fighter who's in tremendous shape has to be a big-time bonus. You know what I mean? So his punches are a lot more crisper, a lot more thunder behind it. You can hear his shots. Riddick Bowe, he's throwing some power punches, but, they're not as crisp. The jab is not as sharp, and you can look for a big guy like that, for someone who's great with that. Go ahead, Darren.
Yeah, but to say, for a guy who he's known one of the best jabs out there. It's not a Larry Holmes jab, but it's still it's a hell of a jab, and he is not go. I bet you Eddie Futch had to be losing his mind doing this.
Yeah. There you go, another right hand Holyfield.
I think Evander tagging him.
Yeah, Holyfield definitely found something with that overhand right.
And the key always, watching this fight, and a lot of times, with that, when someone clearly has that height and reach advantage, the distance. Yep. Evander, when he's on that inside, Riddick's going downhill. Like, he's not maintaining. And I think that's the one thing. And I don't know if there's pride. Sometimes there's ego where it's like, I'm going to slug with you, because Riddick knows. Riddick knows what works. He knew, from the previous year, that jab is what really took Evander out of it. But he's just saying, all right, Evander, you're coming in. Let's start slugging. And that hurt him.
Right. Another right hand. There you go. Because the speed, there's no question who we give that edge to in this fight. Mm-hmm. Like, Holyfield, I don't care what type of shape Riddick Bowe is in. Holyfield's going to, when it comes to speed, like, I'm going to give him that edge over most of these heavyweights, in this era. And if Holyfield can get inside on Bowe, which he's been doing since round 4, and use that speed and, hit him with a couple combinations and bounce out of there, this is going to be a tough fight for Bowe, and it's definitely turned into that. Yeah, I'm giving that round to Holyfield.
Yeah, I'm going to say 7 and 8, only because Holyfield, if I had to do 7, he finished the round strong, so I'm going to give it to him. And let's be real, even if we were judging this fight, I think you after the Fan Man, you're not thinking like, oh, Bowe, and before 21-minute delay, you're looking at how that thing ended afterwards, and that went to Evander.
That's what you're going to remember, exactly. Yeah, Bowe's face is starting to show what Holyfield is doing. pretty even round when it comes to punches landed. Bowe 31, Holyfield 25. But yeah, both over 50%. That's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
But I just felt like Holyfield's punches were more sharper. You know what I mean? Like and did more damage.
One thing I will give it to both fighters, though, in comparison to even present, eras of heavyweight fights afterwards, both these guys are. This has a movement, Jose, of like a middleweight fight.
Yeah.
These guys are moving around. It's not like you think of heavyweight fighters, meandering and just slow. Like this has good pace to it, even for Riddick not being in the best of shape. Like he's moving. Evander's we know he can move, but this fight is something not the typical what we think of for heavyweight boxing.
Yeah, the ninth round for a heavyweight fight, these rounds get really boring. You know what I mean? Because these guys are out of it. They're holding on. Like these guys are barely holding on. They're punching out of every clinch. These guys are still throwing punches, man. There's barely any they're not leaning on each other. There's no sloppy punches. Bowe is throwing a few of those little slow jabs and right hands, but even now, his punches are a little sharper and stuff. So yeah, he is.
And it says right now for me, I have it 4 rounds apiece into this 9th round here, and Bowe is starting to heat up.
And again, he might have just started getting kind of warmed up. This is the 2nd round after the 7th, so it might have taken him a little bit.
No, absolutely. And I think he got a good shot in on Evander. So Evander, we just spoke about how the action now slows down a little bit after we say it. But
I know.
I think Evander got a good shot from Riddick, so it kind of slowed him up. But Evander's looking like he's got some pop again too.
Yeah, that was a good body shot there by Bowe.
One thing about Evander that you can't teach. You can do little tricks, but you can't. Evander could recover in the moment.
Yeah.
That better than a lot of fighters, could. He knew how to dig down deep, but also he knew some tricks of the trade to, if you hurt him and you thought you had him against the ropes, he could recover and maintain and survive in a round.
Right. Yeah, how many times he's doing it now? How many times have we saw the Evander Holyfield fight and he was hurt, and then later on that round, ooh, man, that was a good shot at the end there, man. Late punch, but a good one. But we always saw, you're right, we always saw Holyfield recover any round. Any round.
And I think what's crazy here, though, for Evander, and for those who, I think, in my opinion, this is the start of the heart issues.
Yep.
That Evander winds up having in '94 with Michael Moore. And, later when the 3rd Bowe Holyfield fight, that heart problem, which people thought he should retire, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
And he winds up fighting another 20 years. So
who
the hell knows?
Yeah, I definitely I agree. I agree with that scorecard. I gave Bowe that 9th round.
Yeah, so I got 5 rounds Bowe, 4 rounds Holyfield. This is as close as it gets, man. And you got the fan man.
Yeah, it's back and forth. These guys are making adjustments mid-rounds, mid-fights, and you can see Holyfield came out this round with a little more bounce. I think he might have just taken that round off. You're right, Bowe hit him with something early in the round, slowed him down, but he's back.
Mm-hmm. I remember in the previous year's fight, the 10th round gave one of the great rounds in boxing history between these two guys. So, now we're in the 10th here. And I might have asked you this on one of our previous boxing episodes, but so those who have listened, forgive me, but I'm going to ask you, Jose, how do you feel about it? If you look back to previous times, the 70s, even the 80s, it was a 15-round fight. How do you feel like going from 15 to 12? Do you like that?
I do.
Better?
I do.
You like 12 better or 15 better?
I like the 12 better. I think 15, that's dangerous, man. You see now what happened to a lot of those fighters in that era. You know, 15 is tough. 15, that's a lot of fighting, man. You know, and you can get hurt, man. Those lot. I mean, how many times we've seen it? We've seen all those big fights and dudes getting knocked down in the 14 to 15 round. You know, great fighters who we call great fighters have stolen a couple of fights because of that. You know what I mean? If they were 12-round fights, it would be, you know, I think history would have been a lot different. Boxing history would have been a lot different, you know, but, you know, they call them the championship rounds, you know, and they were definitely that, but that had to be exhausting, man. I can't even imagine that.
Yeah, that's what it was. You know, our dads, that generation,
Yeah.
he went 15 rounds. You know, that's what it was. I ain't gonna lie. Selfishly, I'm glad it's 12 because I tell you what, man, being on the East Coast, these main events would start late, and church was out of the question that Sunday morning.
Yeah.
Because you're not done till 1:30 in the morning, unless a knockout happened.
Right.
If you went all 12 rounds, you were going. So imagine 15. That's like a 3 a.m.er.
Yeah.
You know.
Very true. Very true. But also, them fights back then didn't start at 11 o'clock at night, man. These dudes were fighting in New York, and you know, like they were fighting on the East Coast a lot more.
Yeah, that's true. Somewhere, yeah, that's true. But
This is also a good round here, man.
Yeah. Well, I give it to Evander in this one.
Yeah, he threw a lot of power shots, connected with a lot of power shots. Look at that, man. Knocked his mouthpiece out and all. Yeah.
Just the definition of a warrior, Evander Holyfield, man.
Yeah, man. And it's unfortunate, you know, we talked about this, you know, in the last fight, when we did the first fight, Bowe Holyfield, and you know, that takes its toll on people, man. That's the human body is not meant to take that much damage, you know, and unfortunately he's a warrior and we love that in fighters. But you know, that's not a good thing. You know what I mean? Like physically, and he's definitely paying the price for all of that now, unfortunately. Man, he was hitting Bowe, man, that round, man. Absolutely. Damn, that mouthpiece flew out.
Oh yeah, what a shot, man.
Yeah. I give Holyfield that, man. Them hooks, them short hooks, man. He had that. That's how he knocked Tyson out. That's how he knocked a lot of dudes out.
He's one of the more unusual fighters, I say, of all time. Like, because there's a lot of things when you look at him, he doesn't fight pretty.
Right.
It's an ugly fight. Like you said, that was his style of counter-punching style, which I loved. But he was a counter-puncher. He took shots. He seemed like what he was, a guy who had to bulk up to be a heavyweight. He wasn't a natural heavyweight fighting against guys who were natural heavyweights.
Yeah.
But yet somehow he banged with the best of them, and somehow he got it done.
Yeah, I mean, and you know, the evolution of the heavyweight was definitely taking shape in this era. You know, at this time, you mentioned Lennox Lewis, Riddick Bowe, Andrew Galata's coming, like all these monsters. You know,
Shannon Briggs,
right? Yeah, all these guys, and you don't even think about Shannon Briggs when you talk about, you know, boxing like that, 90s boxing. And you know, before you would get like a Larry Holmes, maybe like a big guy like that, or you know, even like a Buster Douglas was a big guy. Like, not the evolution. These guys are coming in now in the 90s at 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", and you still got a guy like Holyfield coming in and doing what he did and winning the title a few times, man. Like, great fighter, man. Great fighter.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Now we see where boxing is now. You see 6'7" with the Klitschko and Wilder. Tyson Fury 6'9". Like, it's insane.
Yeah.
You should be playing power forward somewhere. And you're heavyweight champs.
Yeah, definitely tough to get in there inside on those dudes, man.
Yeah. That's why you can't, I feel like, especially in a lot of sports, but especially a combat sport like boxing, you can't do like, what would happen if Ali fought, you know, Tyson Fury? You can't compare that. It's just the evolution is just too insane.
Yeah. Yeah, this round, I feel like both guys kind of like
tired out.
Yeah, took a step back, and and understanding that it's a close fight, and that last round is going to be big time. I feel like these guys are just kind of like taking it easy this round for the most part, and
you're starting to heat up a little bit.
Yeah.
Holyfield.
For the most part, they were playing it safe, though. It looked like now it's starting.
Yeah.
Once they know the round is almost over, they try to. Ooh, good shot, Holyfield with another overhand right.
They called it 11th round in this 12-round era, the championship round, and you see it right here. Why? Like Evander Holyfield coming alive when he needs to.
That right hand, man, that overhand right it's been landing all fight, and then you can see how tired Bowe is, and he's just really lazy with them jabs, man, and he just keeps catching them and countering with that overhand right. Beautiful shot. Holyfield hit him with a couple of them this round.
So we're going into the 12th round here, and I have it 6 rounds Holyfield, 5 rounds Bowe.
Yeah.
So really, it's as close as it can get.
Yeah.
And, the 7th is controversial with the fan man. So, I mean, this is, to me, Jose, as a fight fan for boxing, even in MMA, this is what you want.
Right.
A fight going the distance, and it's dead even going into that final round, and you're sitting there watching, and, you could be like, nah, it's Riddick. I'm like Evander.
Yeah.
Somebody else is with my side. Someone else is with your side. This is what you love in a great fight.
Right, and this is what you want, right? If I'm paying for a pay-per-view, this is what I want, right? Like, I want to see something like this, and this is what I miss. I feel like I haven't had this in so long, Any fight now, it's typically a knockout or just, a domination, man. Like, this is an amazing, amazing fight, man. That either way, I'm just like, I'm just glad I watched this.
Yeah. And we're going into the 12th here. But it's what I always remember, and I'm glad we did it again. And I hadn't watched this fight fully in a while. The first fight's known for that great round, Oof. But I think this fight's a better fight.
Yes. Oh, no, I 100% agree with that. This overall, from start to finish, is a better fight for sure. Everybody remembers that round 10 in the last fight, but man, this from start to finish. It was just so many ebbs and flows in this fight. It was just like Holyfield had him, for a couple rounds, and Bowe would come back. And it was just, and that's what I like to see in fights. Adjustments, ebb and flows, like that's the beauty of boxing. That's the science of it. And it was in full display, I feel like, in this fight. Yeah, and Bowe opened up this 12th round, throwing some good shots, and he hit Holyfield early. But it might have tired him out, And I think that's all weather. I meant to say weather the storm. Holyfield has to weather the storm. I call him Weatherfield. But there you go. Another right hand. Caught Bowe flush, man. But I just think Holyfield weathers that, and he knows he's going to have the advantage in the later round. Yeah, and I think, and Foreman just mentioned it, and he was 100% right. Like, I think Holyfield came in this round, like, trying to just escape, and you're not winning a fight like that.
No.
Too many fighters have lost fights because of that.
True, absolutely.
Because I think that's big for a judge as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You can escape. You have to be way ahead on the card.
Yeah,
so that's the risk you take when. And I think Evander's. Like, I couldn't see Emmanuel Stewart giving him that advice.
Right.
I think it's way too close of a fight to try to think you can cruise. But even we've seen it.
He looks hurt.
Cruise too long. Evander?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think Bowe's taking it to him in this round.
There you go. Time. Come on, Mills. There's 30 seconds left. Knocked his mouthpiece out. Let's go. Mills handled that beautifully.
That's Mills. Mills lets you fight. He wasn't a guy to interfere. He didn't want any dirty stuff, but he's gonna let you go.
Oh, good shot, man. Holyfield had that counter right on deck tonight, man. And he probably would have knocked out a lot of dudes in another, if he was fighting someone else.
Here we go.
Yo, these guys did not like each other. Man, Emmanuel Stewart had to tackle Holyfield in the ring.
That's what he said. He said, you got to go after your guy.
All right, so I'm definitely giving that last round to Bowe. Should be even, Deremy. Should be even.
6 rounds each. So at that point, I do go by that addict of you have to take it from the champ.
I agree. 100%.
And I think Holyfield outperformed him, but he didn't take it from him, though.
Nah. To win a decision, man, like, you got to really put in that work, man. And Holyfield put work in, but now I would say maybe once, maybe twice that he had, like, Bowe on the ropes with a possible knockout, but he didn't do enough for me to win this fight. Especially the way it kind of, like, closed out. Like, Bowe dominated that 12th round. Yeah.
Let's see, really.
Bam. Oh, that right hand,
but
man.
Holyfield got some shots in too, though. To be fair to him, it just looked like Bowe was more making more. I think that is the hard part about judging a fight. Is someone could be making like a lot of noise, like moving, but they're not really doing any damage, but they're looking more active.
Yeah.
But they're not. But the other shots go in. That could be hard. But I think Bowe did get some good shots in there. To win that round. It's tough. That's a tough one. It's not the 7th round kind of hard, but the 12th is hard.
Yeah. All right, we're about to get the decision here. Turn this up, man. We can hear this decision a little better.
Yeah.
There you go. We need to start doing this, man.
Yeah. Harold Letterman. Deremy, exactly. It should be bigger than the game card.
Yeah. Here we go. I get that. $113. That was not a good call by. Because he could have said that could have went to Riddick Bowe too. Once again, there you have it, man.
Yeah, Michael Buffer gave you a little okey doke there.
Yeah, he did.
What a fight, though, man! What a fight! It was Ring Magazine called this one Fight of the Year. That's something though when you have 2 guys who give you back-to-back fights of the year.
Yeah. Oh. The deposed one. I like that. Good Brock Newman. Yeah, man, yeah. But this was fun to watch, man. This was definitely fun to watch.
So, do you think if there's no fan man, is it a smoother decision
it has
for
to be,
one of these guys?
Definitely. No, that 7th round, and the thing was, like we talked about there, like that 7th round could have went either way, like, because you were right, it was 2 rounds. It was two different rounds, and who knows what happens. If Riddick Bowe continues that, because he started off that round pretty well, like we talked about, and if he just continued that, or if Holyfield doesn't get that 21-minute rest and bounce back in that later on that round, I agree with you. We just talked about there. If I was a judge, I'm going to remember that second half of that round, and I think it's just Holyfield stuck out a little more in the 7th. He won by 1 round, this decision, and it could have been that,
It's just something to see, and I do think it just shows that people, and I think now we're kind of getting there, with the 90s, because, like, that's not that long ago, and I do agree, like, there's no question now that that fight's done. If we see something like that, the fight's not going to continue.
Yeah.
And I know that'd be hard, because then you do have people buying, pay-per-views, or in today's world, They got Showtime or ESPN Plus or or Max, whatever you want to say. So it's not quite the same. But then you got people in the audience and refunding ticket. It can be messy, but I think nowadays you would have to just cancel that. Like, it's just too much stuff, man. Like, you have to shut that fight down, and it's a shame. They messed up, and in this fight, it should have been stopped.
Yeah, I mean, and we talked about there's so many important reasons why, but I just think, you know, I know like Bo's wife in that situation with her going to the hospital, security purposes, like, you know, everything that goes on with that, with the fan man coming in. But at the end of the day, I think, you know, like the health of the fighters is like the most important thing, and to have them stop. And I get different sports, even in like the NFL, like, you know, that's a tough thing to do. Like, I can see baseball, like rain delays like happen, and, you know, there's a lot of adjustments that go into that as well to kind of restart that. And, you know, but in a fight like this, man, fighting outside, like, and now you got to add the elements into this. Like, I just think it was unfair for both fighters.
You said the NFL, and we're recording this on the 6th. So yesterday, you know, Sunday Night Football, Bills returned to Cincinnati.
All right, good point.
And Damar Hamlin, you know, he was on the sideline last night, but we remember January 2nd of 2023, and, you know, speaking of just bizarre, crazy moments, you know, that may take the, you know, Monica Seles was pretty high, but you know, seeing, I don't know, Jose, if you watched Damar live or were you? I kind of was on the phone. And I got a Twitter update.
Yeah, my son texted me. Yeah, Drew texted me. I was watching. I think the Sixers were on also. Yeah, and I was like all into the Sixers that last year. And that I wasn't watching it, but then when I flipped it on, everything had already happened.
Yeah, so that was one of the more bizarre moments. And I think the coaches took that into control and made it stop.
Yes.
And I'm wondering if now, if God forbid the fan man were to happen now, the fighters would have just been like, we're not doing this. Because I think, looking at it, when you have like political figure like Lewis, like, you know, Minister Farrakhan, Jesse Jackson. So imagine in today's world, if you had political figures there and where he landed, and you don't know if, you know, we know now it was a stunt, but in the moment, you don't know, like, they didn't know. Is he trying to attack, you know, the Nation of Islam, attack, you know, against Christianity, a religious thing? Is he by himself? Is there somebody else? What else can happen? Like you said, security things. Like, the investigation, I think, would have took longer than 21 minutes anyway.
Right.
So I just think it's a lesson that's to be learned, that I think we've come a long way in learning it. Like, man, like, crazy. And now we can laugh at the fan man became a joke, but in the moment, it was serious.
Yeah, and, you know, they didn't even clear the area. You know what I mean? Like, it was like, oh, let's just keep going. Like, it was nothing. And again, like, thinking about it from then, like, yeah, that's the times where we were living in. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you could show up to the airport 15 minutes before your flight. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it was just totally a different time. And, you know, the way they handled that situation was, I mean, security wise, like, I don't know if it was right or wrong, but it kept everything moving. And you talked about like the Damar Hamlin situation, you know, you read a lot, like the NFL was ready to move on. You know what I mean? They were ready to move on and start playing. Like, I'm glad you said that. You know, the coaches kind of stopped everything. And, you know, the one example I was thinking of was the 49ers and Ravens Super Bowl. You know, when they had like the lights went out and stuff, like that was good one, that was like it wasn't as dramatic and as serious as some of these situations, but, you know, it was a huge delay and a big time moment, you know. But yeah, I just think, I don't know, I just think we have to look at competitive fairness sometimes, and I don't know how it shifted it for this fight, but it did something to this fight, and it you know, it could have swayed a decision. It was a big time decision in a close fight where, like, I'm trying to say this the right way, but every little inch, every little moment was so important in this fight. Like, for again, we saw the decision, how close it was, and we scored it a draw. You know, we're not professional judges, but it was scored a draw on HBO. Like, when a judge scored it a draw, and it's just like, man, like that one round could have just altered this entire fight and some legacies, you know?
I was going to say that. I think a legacy, if both of them, if Bowe wins the fight, you still could say, but you don't say it as loudly, that he's like a what could have been or what should have been. If he has a big heavyweight win over Holyfield, which he did, and then he defended it in a dramatic fashion and gets that W, even if his career winds up after that, you know, the whole Galata thing and all that stuff. Because I guess, yeah, for being that, if it goes this close, you would have a third fight with these guys, I feel.
I know. I was just thinking that, like, if Bowe's up 2-0, like, why would I even fight this dude again? You know, but who knows?
Because he didn't want to fight Lennox Lewis.
Yeah, very true. Very true.
To be honest, like, I don't, I'm not trying to say he was scared. I don't know, but they didn't fight, you know, and
they should have fought. Yeah,
one of the great, we talked about it in our '90s boxing episode. I think maybe the dream, one of the dream fights that we would have seen in that great era of heavyweight boxing would have been a Bowe Lewis fight, but we never got to see that, you know, and on a professional level.
Right, right, and I just think that was like a precursor to what was to come with boxing, you know, and how it wasn't about the fighters, it was about the promoters, and if they can get stuff situated in the background. And now in today's era, man, like, we barely get any of these fights, because by the time two fighters agree to a fight, it's 4 years later, and it's just, I mean, how many times have we seen? We've seen it with Pacquiao Mayweather. That took too long, you know. Spence and Crawford took too long. Like, it just, some of these fights some of these huge fights are just taking way too long to come together. And at some point, like, you know, that's gotta change, man. And, you know, I just think with these decisions and, like, everything that goes on in boxing, we just talked about the Fury, like, fight that just happened a month ago, you know, that's how boxing is losing a lot of these fans, man. Like, you know, like, not being able to see big fights. Some of these big fights, like, these decisions are, like, you know, like, kind of iffy. And now Showtime is no longer going to be, you know, having boxing on. So that's going to be another big time shift. I don't know, man. Like, the sport we love, you know, it's not trending in the right direction, Deremy.
No, it's not. My final question for you for this one is, in this era of '90s heavyweight boxing, where do you have this fight ranked for all those fights? Where do you rank this one?
Oof. For dramatics, it's got to be number one for dramatics. But as a fight, just I'm taking the Fan Man out, right? Like, it was a really good fight, you know, and it's definitely not like in my top 5 or anything like that. It's
well, wait, and are you doing ever, or you're doing just I said the era of that?
No, just the 90s.
So the 90s?
Yeah,
it's not in the top 5.
Not in my top 5. No, it might be just right. It's that 100% top 10, probably like 6 or 7 for sure. But it's a good fight. It's a great fight. But for me, man, like none of these dudes were like almost knocked out or nothing like that. You know what I mean? Like, I need some of that in there too. And you know, this fight didn't have that, and I needed that. That's all.
See, I love this fight. This is one of my favorite fights. Like,
yeah,
I love this.
It's a really good fight, man. Like, I'm not knocking it.
It's behind Tyson. Tyson Douglas is the number one fight to me of the 90s. Like, that's it. But it's like number 2, I feel, for 90s heavyweight fights. Oof. Like, I think this fight, the 10th round, is amazing. This fight trumps the first fight. Like, the first fight to me is not that great of a fight. It's a great round, and it's a good fight. This was a great fight.
But it's the fight that they remember more, the first one over the second one, I feel.
Remember that round.
Right, but it's so fact though, it's that fight. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and And I agree with you. I think this was the better fight. I'm not 100%. I'm not disagreeing, but
yeah,
I just think to my point, it's like that round it was just so incredible that I'm going to remember that fight. Like it's hard. I don't. I'm not explaining it right, but I just this was a really, really good fight. Like I'm not taking it away at all. I just think I remember 1 over 2. Like for that reason.
I think. Well, I may say different. You remember 1 for the boxing. I think 2 with the Fan Man is.
Oh well, yeah. Right.
Which I think is just amazing, though. Like, it's a hell of a fight, and you got if the Fan Man happened, say, let's switch. Go with me here, people listening, and Jose.
Yeah, I forgot about them. I was just me and you for a minute there.
If Fan Man happens during Bowe Galata, that's like, all I'm talking about is Fan Man, the fights, whatever, right?
Right.
But Fan Man happened during a hell of a fight, too. Like, it's like, man, like, this was a hell of a fight. Like, you can see the venom coming out. Like, these guys were fighting after the bell a few times. Like it was just a great action. And then you throw in, like, the Fan Man and, you know, and to me, a great fight leaves you talking. Like, we did Ali Frazier 1, and a lot of people talk to this day, 50-something years later. You know, I don't know. Ali hurt Frazier more, though, afterwards, blah, blah, blah. But Frazier won. I think, like, the fact that we can look at this and be like, ooh, maybe Bowe won this. Or some people might say Holyfield. I think that's what a great fight leaves you, where it's like, you don't know. You can argue this guy won or that guy won.
Yeah, I think with everything that happened in this fight, everything, like, it's one of these fights. If you ask me about, like, 90s boxing, like, like Tyson Douglas, you know, I'm going to think Fan Man. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong. Like, that's one of the fights I'm going to go with. Like, all right, like, yeah, I remember Bowe Holyfield, the Fan, like, but for me, as, like, the purist I am, and I'm not saying anyone else is not, but I need certain things to make a fight for me great. Like, and this fight was missing a little bit of that. That's all. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I hear you. We might. I'll give Tyson Douglas. I definitely give. If we go non-heavyweights, even I'll give Meldrick Taylor and Chavez over this fight.
That's a great fight. Yeah, but possible future episode.
Yeah. But I think this one's right. I think for the 90s, it was a hell of a fight, man. This was a
good fight. One. I'm not arguing that. Good fight.
So all right. We'll see what the people say.
There you go. Yeah.
See what the people say. So you guys let us know. But this was fun. To do 30th anniversary of the Fan Man, Bowe Holyfield 2. And we got a lot of stuff coming up for you guys in November. You know, we're looking at 3 episodes for you guys this month.
Hopefully y'all can handle that.
Yeah, exactly. You know, so getting you guys ready for the holiday, Thanksgiving, gobble, gobble, gobble.
Yeah, man.
You get some great fight stuff. You're going to get some other good content. So, be on the lookout for that. And also to subscribe, to our YouTube channel, Bigger Than the Game with Deremy and Jose, or subscribe to anywhere you listen to podcasts to Bigger Than the Game with Deremy and Jose as well.
Yeah, so if you let us know what you think, which fight, in your opinion, was a better fight, was it Bowe Holyfield 1, Bowe Holyfield 2? You can even throw in 3 if you want. That's up to you. But, definitely Fan Man. It's 100% one of the most interesting sporting events of all time. I would 100% say that. So, good stuff.
So, absolutely. So, for Jose, the real deal, Ruiz, I'm Deremy Dove. Thank you guys for listening and watching Bigger Than the Game with Deremy and Jose. Take care.
Peace.